Joining us is Dr. Amir Khnifess. He is also a candidate for Israeli parliament for the Labour Party and head of the Israeli Druze Center, and Yosef Haddad, CEO of the organization Together Vouch for Each Other. And Amir, let's start with you. The Central Elections Committee voided her candidacy, which may be overturned. Should they have done that? Is she deserving? And even no matter what the legal bearing is she deserving to be a candidate, especially for the party that basically founded the state of Israel as a Zionist Jewish democratic state?
Yeah, well, as I said, it's first let's start by the fact that Mrs. Maraana has already apologized and renounced these sentiments so many times, and definitely since she was elected on the list of the Labour Party. The other issue is the fact that Mrs. Maraana has come to the Labour Party in a way that she accepted the ideology and the principles of the Labour Party. And that's also something that we need to appreciate. Let's remember that I am also come from a Druze community, from a minority. So I have my own views, I have my ideas, I have my cultural and religious background. I by myself came to the Labour Party in a way, so I also has to accept the ideology and the principles like any other member in the party. What we need to do now is to stand behind, of course, our chairman, and that we have to agree on very clear ideas of the Labour Party presents for the Israeli public and its future.
All right, Yosef, the same question that I posed to Amir, I posed to you, and I also would like you to respond to some of Amir's points.
Listen, I didn't know Amir before today, and we spoke just briefly before we entered the studio, and I can tell you that Amir has an amazing values. We spoke a little bit, and you understand the huge difference between someone like Amir and someone like Ibtisam. And I know for sure, that when we talk about a candidate like Ibtisam Marani, we think that it's not about a legal issue whether she's going to be disqualified or not, because the Supreme Court is 99.9% is going to revoke that and put her back to be a candidate.
Right, which they have done in the past.
Exactly, but the problem here is about something called values, and the Labour Party once stood up for values like, for instance, Amir represent, but not like Ibtisam represent. And you know what? Amir knows that in fact as well. So unfortunately, the chairman of the Labour Party and the Labour Party itself, if they're not the one to disqualify Ibtisam Marani, the people of Israel should disqualify Ibtisam Marani and the Labour Party as well. Yeah. So I really hope that Ibtisam, because anyone believed those tears? Anyone believed the apology? Oh, come on.
All right. Well, I'm going to interject. I'm going to interject just to say you said chairman, of course, chairwoman or chairperson of the party, Merav Michaeli.
There is one point which is also important. I agree with you. We all disagree in the Labour Party with some of her posts, but we have to remember that these are 10 years old posts. We can't. That were at the time that Maraana didn't.
She said it was their most amazing 2 minutes of her life.
Trust me,
this is something outrageous. And you know what? I know in fact that you don't agree with her, right?
That was at the time that Maraana held any public or official job, but now she apologized about it
because she's a candidate. Because she's a candidate. If she wasn't a candidate, she wouldn't apologize for it. Now she has something to lose.
What is important here also that we have to remember, and that's something that we also need to agree about it, that Maraana was very active on issues which is important not only for the Arab sector and for Arab society in Israel, but for the whole entire Israeli society, and that's all issues related to violence against women, equal rights and equal rights between Jewish majority and Arab minority. And what is more important, it's her activity against all the racist law that Netanyahu's government
do something amazing outside on the surface.
Netanyahu's government legislated in recent years.
I don't care about Netanyahu. I'm not here defending Netanyahu. I'm not here defending anyone. I'm asking you a simple question. Let's start by a simple question. Do you, first of all, agree with the values that you represent? Yes or no? Yes or no? Simple question.
Of course not.
Of course not.
Of course
not. And do you think that she should be a candidate in the Labour Party with the values of the Labour Party?
Well, the minute she
apologized, be honest with me.
The minute she apologized about these
I can apologize right now for being a bit aggressive.
She made it very clear that she apologized She made it very clear once and again.
Really? And do you
apologized.
really believe her?
Of course I believe her. Of
Come
course.
on,
And
Amir.
well,
Amir,
the thing,
come on.
Yeah,
Come
but
on.
there is also one thing that we have to respect.
It's a saying about another saying and another saying.
Yeah, but
I don't really think that
there is
you
one thing
believe
that
her.
we need to
You
respect.
just have to stand up for the Labour
I know.
Party.
Okay,
and I understand that.
yes, I want to interject. I do want to interject with a couple of points. And Amir, one is: do you see the Labour Party offering something, an attraction for the Israeli Arab community at a time when its political views are undergoing, it seems, a kind of shift?
Gentlemen, the Labour Party believe in inclusive. It doesn't believe, we don't believe in censorship. We have to remember that Mrs. Marani was elected by more than 6,000 party members.
They had no idea that she did that.
No, but
they had no idea about
we need to respect. And I think we all need to appreciate the fact that the Labour Party is the only party on the political map, on the Israeli political map, that had an internal election for its list. So this is also an important issue that we need to appreciate. But what is important, gentlemen, what is important here is the fact, and I think we all agree in this, is that the minute that Merav Michaeli was elected as a leader of the Labour Party, the whole political map has changed, and we have in a new movement towards change. We have a new people who join.
Right. For some Labour support. Okay. Let's first of all note that Merav Michaeli has revived the Labour Party clearly, and she has brought new voters in. But in the same token, as she may, or the choice of Ibtisam in the primaries may do what is. But I do want to ask you, Yosef. I had Naftali Bennett in the studio last week, and I asked the question about who you would sit with. Would you sit with this candidate, this? And he said, look, if somebody accepts Israel as a Jewish and democratic state, they can be a part of government. Now, if the Labour Party, Ibtisam Marani, has joined the Labour Party, which does define itself as a Zionist party and as supporting a Jewish state, does that...
It's quite an amazing question. You know why? Ibtisam Marani is part of B'Tselem's board. Did you know that? Did you know that? That she is part of the organization B'Tselem.
Right. Let's explain that B'Tselem is an organization that says it champions the civil rights of Palestinians.
Let's take it even more further and say that B'Tselem just 2 weeks ago, they put a report that all Israel, including the Israeli Arabs, living under apartheid. And I guess that if you live under apartheid, you can be even a candidate, such as Ibtisam Marani. So there is a bit of a problem.
There is one important issue that we need also to understand. The reason that the Likud putting so much effort and emphasis on one candidate of the Labour Party is because they want to hide the Netanyahu's
I am talking about her, not the Likud. Leave the Likud.
I'm telling you.
I represent an organization together to each other. It's an Arab-Israeli organization that wants to integrate and to be in the Israeli society. I'm asking you.
Let me tell you something.
Leave the Likud.
With Yosef, there is a point because there are...
I know, but
I understand.
But they put so much emphasis on one candidate and of 10 years old post is because they want to hide Netanyahu's failure in more important issues that should be the central of these elections. Is the fact that 5,600 Israelis has lost their life because of Netanyahu's government facing...
Well, Amir, I do want to say we are shifting, right? I'm sorry, I agree. I do want to stay focused on this.
One second. Tell me something. It's because Netanyahu's failed...
And also Hibayazbek and Marani
These are
should
the
be
issues.
disqualified by my own opinion, by the way. I'm not representing anybody besides myself.
You want to tell me from all the political issues, now we put everything aside and we are focusing on Ibtisam.
Talk about values. I don't care about
others.
I really don't care about others.
Yeah.
Listen, if I was representing the Likud, I would go with you. Let's talk about it.
Let me ask you just one question. What is important? Is the fact that Netanyahu failed? I just want to ask the fact that Netanyahu failed in his policy against the Iranians and the fact he couldn't stop their efforts of developing a nuclear weapon program, and the fact that he failed to find allies at the White House since the departure of Trump or Ibtissam Marani.
Amir, let Joseph finish this. We are running out of time.
Yeah. For me as a citizen, I want for once and for all, and it doesn't matter if you're right, center, or left, I want to see candidates with values, represent honesty, represent something higher than just politics.
Okay.
Be values. When I spoke with you, I saw values. When I hear and see what Maraana or Hiba Yazbak or Bengvir represent and what they do, that's not values, and that's what I want. So, that's why I don't care about the rest. I want politicians to be with values. And what today in the Labour Party, unfortunately, they don't have this.
You made your point. You made your point. Would you agree with me?
Gentlemen, I'm giving you 20 more seconds before we have to wrap.
Is the right candidate to lead the Israeli
right now is leading a party with a candidate like Ibtissam Marani. This is disqualified by any logical and human
we are going to have to make that the last word in this discussion, but I'm sure this debate will continue to go on, certainly in the campaign trail. Dr. Amir Khnifess, from the candidate for the Labour Party, and Yosef Haddad of Together Vouch for Each Other, thank you for joining us